Welcome to the Happily Ever After Cold Case Podcast. We're your hosts, Elissa and Marissa, distant cousins who take on distant cases. Come with us as we explore the crimes of legendary tales of the past. Hey, cousin. My soulless, heartless cousin. When you're an attorney, you have no soul, or has it just been dragged out of you?
Well, this is why I can always ask you what you're smoking this week. So what is it? What has your nasal passages tasted now?
No, I can't snort or smoke anymore. Asthma and allergies. But last week I was on Xanax, which was really, really tasty. This week I'm just on orange juice.
So you're sober. I don't know if I can deal with this.
I am. No, there's no vodka in it yet. Maybe later.
Well, I think you might want to be high for this one, because we're going to be talking about two young children named Hansel and Gretel and all that befell them, as well as their neglectful father and their abusive stepmother. So you might want to add in a couple of handfuls of vodka there.
Oh, okay. How old is this case?
So this one, as we talked about before, the Grimm's investigators, this is another one that they were looking into. This, I believe, there was a bit more information on this. So it's only about 300 to 400 years old.
That's still considerable. And that you found this case is
wild.
Well,
I do. As I do have a no heart and a dead soul, I am very good at digging, as I have sold myself to the devil for my investigative prowess. So I was able to find this fairly easily.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess if you're a person that has, a dead heart and a dead soul, you have a lot of time on your hands.
It's true, and it helps that when you know so many people who are so generally high as a kite, Marissa, that it helps motivate you.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
All right, tell me more, because let's see what happens here.
All right. Well, so this is a case about two children and their mother and father, and it's another one where the mother dies. Now, I am noticing a bit of a pattern, as we saw in Cinderella, and I haven't put anything together. I don't think there's any type of serial killer targeting mothers, several hundred years ago. But it is just curious and coincidental, at least to my eyes, that the mother is dead again. So in this one, the father yet again remarries. But unlike other cases that we've seen, these individuals were not wealthy. They were actually very, very poor. Yeah, and here we see the husband and wife, so the children's father, children being Hansel and Gretel, their father and their stepmother are struggling to have enough food, enough wood and other amenities to keep everyone in the home warm and fed. And they're really, really struggling. And at that point, they didn't have a welfare system. There was no EBT cards. They weren't able to get adequate food.
What's with the constant stepmothers, though? I mean, was this a thing 300 years ago?
I don't know. It is very curious that in each case, the stepmother is very, very aggressive, I guess, towards the children.
I will say, looking at our personal family tree, I have seen many situations where one of our ancestors was married to a woman. She died, and he ends up marrying the sister. So,
very
I
biblical. Apparently he's a very good Jew.
Apparently.
Was he a rabbi? Because I know that we do have shared family members who were rabbis. Yeah,
we do, going back to the 1200s. Yeah, which is nuts. It's nuts.
Even further back than these crimes.
Yeah. So there is a precedent maybe in this. I mean, just by the names, it sounds like this is Germany. So maybe
I think what would be Germany today?
yeah, or Austria or something. So it does the Austro-Hungarian Empire. It sounds like it may be something like that situation, where maybe he's, obliged to, marry the sister because his first wife has died. I don't know. I'm throwing it out there.
Although that would be curious, because then these would still be her niece and nephew, and you would think that she would want to care for the children of her sister.
Unless there was
Maybe
some
not.
jealousy. Yeah, there could have been jealousy. Like personally, my sister's kids. No, I wouldn't.
No, you wouldn't.
No, no, no,
Nah.
past it. No,
Nope. Don't need that.
no.
Start fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, either way, in this case, that's what happened. And instead of trying to figure another way out, the wife said, kids have got to go. They are 2 mouths to feed, and they are just not pulling their weight. Yeah. And the father, and here's why I think the father today would have been arrested for abandonment at minimum, agreed. He agreed. He said, yep, it is time for the kids to go. He and his new wife are going to go live a little happier with a little less to do. Oh, actually, pause, time out. Hang on.
So you mentioned that the abandonment issue. This is, just out of curiosity, we have today firehouse laws. Was there nothing like that they couldn't have maybe dropped these children off at, say, a fire station?
There were. Yeah, not necessarily at a fire station, but at a local religious...
Or a church or something?
Church.
Yeah.
They could have dropped them off at a church. There were other locations that they could have utilized, like different government locations, other, maybe not a church, but like a nunnery or monastery or some other type of organization they could have utilized. Yeah.
Okay.
But instead, and I don't know if this was maybe there was some type of law enforcement involvement prior to this, and the parents decided that instead of answering uncomfortable questions, they would just be child free. Wow. So what the father decided to do, took the impetus on himself and took the kids into the forest, because they were very close to the forest, as many houses were in towns and villages. They didn't have the same type of sprawl, city metropolitan sprawl that we had now.
Right.
So it was much, much closer and easier to go into a wooded area. And took them to the forest and gave them some food for a little picnic, and then told the kids that he was going to go gather some wood and he would be right back for them. And then he left.
Whoa, seriously?
Yeah.
Who does that?
Yeah. Apparently their dad. Right. Wow. Father of the year right there.
How old were these kids?
So we don't have enough information to know exactly how old they were. But from the records that we do have... They're not like late teens.
They're not like late teens or anything, right?
No. From the records we do have, they appear to be anywhere from 9 to 14 years old.
Oh.
Not exactly sure.
That is cold-blooded.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. And so we know that they were too young to get married, even at the younger marriage age for people then, but too old to be personally cared for like an infant or a small child would be. So they were somewhere in the realm of somewhat self-sufficient, but still too young to be on their own.
I mean, honestly, I don't like teenagers myself, but I don't think I would. I mean, I have 2 steps. And by the way,
so you're a stepmother.
I am, and I'm not an evil one, which is weird.
So
which is weird.
That's very weird. That's very odd, especially coming from you.
Well, okay.
Is that why you're high so often?
Probably confession time. Confession time.
Okay.
When the younger one, who is 18 now, when she turned 8, I did tell her that if she didn't behave, I could still drop her off at the fire station. I did tell her that.
Oh, well, okay. So you're somewhere in here
Yeah,
with Hansel and Gretel.
yeah. But I did,
you know, it's a good thing then that the Grimm's investigators are no longer with us, as they might have wanted to investigate you.
well, yeah, but see, the thing is, I didn't like just leave her in a forest. I did take her to school and drop her off there and instead of the fire station. But yeah,
Did you pick her up?
I did.
Oh, okay, okay. So it wasn't a crime then.
No,
Okay.
no.
that's
It
good.
was more of a threat that she laughed at openly.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, but I would never take even a teenager, which again I have issues with teenagers. I had an issue with myself when I was a teenager. I don't think I would drop them off in the forest.
That's pretty good. That's a really good way to deal with things as opposed to leaving children in the forest.
Yeah.
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 I mean, wolves. What about the wolves? Other? Did he not take it? He left them there with bait. The food
see,
was
here's the
bait.
thing, though, is that at least we know that Hansel and Gretel were very clever and industrious children, because they had been left with food and they were actually able to find their way back home.
What?
Yeah. Now here's my question though. So they were able to find their way back home, but I don't see any reports or any recordings of any kind from any type of law enforcement agency or children's services agency that indicates that they ever went to an authority figure. So I don't believe they reported their father and stepmother.
So okay, so dude, so they okay, wait. So did they eat their food first? They ate their food
I
in
believe
the forest, had a picnic. Then they found their way home. Okay, good sense of direction. Cool,
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
I'm with you there.
Mm-hmm.
And then stepmom and dad are just gone. And
No, stepmom and dad are still there.
they're still there.
Yeah,
Oh, that must have been a showdown.
I think
Tell me something
from
went
what
down.
I can see, I believe the plan. Now, again, I don't. There is some information that's missing, but from what I can see, it's my understanding that the plan was to abandon the children in the forest and then just live the rest of their lives in their home.
But the
Not
kids
very well
found their
thought
way
out
home.
plan.
Not
but-
well thought out at all.
No.
What? Okay,
But-
so there must be something in the records that say what happened when they confronted the parents. Come on.
Well, there was no disturbance. So law enforcement never arrived on the scene. There's no indication that there was any violent fight or argument such that the town talked about it and it was written up in the local news. So all I can imagine is they got home, and because they never went to the police, they never contacted any type of children's services, and none of their neighbors or local newspapers wrote about this. The only thing I can imagine is they sort of just swept it under the rug, ignored
that is some
everything.
messed
Yeah.
up stuff,
Yeah.
man. No way.
Yeah, talk about needing some therapy.
Oh, that is dysfunctional family times 12. Whoa.
Very much. But that wasn't the last thing that happened.
Wait.
So, it does. Yes. As I said.
Okay.
As I said,
All right,
stepmother and father did not want the children around. There's no indication that they had ever changed their mind because they do it a second time. But this time, the stepmother takes the impetus and she takes them out into the woods.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, she takes them out, and this time they go a little further before she abandons them.
What does she think going a little further is gonna like make them not remember where they were? How much further did she go?
Well, apparently she went far enough because this time they weren't able to find their way home.
Yeah. All right. Hang tight, man. It's, all right. I just got to say, if it was me, as if I was one of those kids, all right, and I already experienced this trick with dad, I think I'd be pretty, on track to be realizing, wait a minute, stepmom is trying to do the same thing. I wouldn't have just, oh yeah, let's go on a picnic. Yay. What the hell? Did they
I don't know. Either they were just really, really stupid, or they honestly thought it was a mistake on their father's part, or
yeah.
I don't know.
Hang on, kids. I'm just going to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
Right.
Wow.
And then a day later, he still hasn't come back.
Yeah.
What do you think happened?
And there were only 2 sandwiches in the picnic. Hello. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Wake
at least the first time they were able to find their way back, they had a good sense of direction and were able to get back home. But this time, going a little farther in, it just they were not able to find their way back home.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Talk about some really bad parenting there.
So did they die of exposure?
No, that is the amazing thing. And that's why I think my first statement regarding them being stupid is incorrect, because even though they did go in the woods a second time, this time with their stepmother, indicating some level of gullibility, I do think that they were at least clever children. And I don't think they were stupid. I think maybe they just believed the best in their parents and mistakenly believed the best in their parents, and just really, really, really needed some good mental health therapy and treatment.
I will say that, prior to current generations that have developed kind of a sense of self, prior generations really just did what their parents asked them to do. So, I mean, I guess it's not totally out of the realm of possibility that they just would have obeyed.
True. We are looking at this from our perspective at this point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
looking
maybe
at this from their perspective. Mm-hmm.
You do what mom and dad says. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Very true. Well, so this time they did what their stepmother said, and they were not able to find their way back. But, and here's where it gets interesting. There are some shoddy records, but we do have some really, really interesting stories. They haven't all been verified. Now, the Grimm's investigators were able to compile some information, and a lot of it is circumstantial evidence that we have.
Okay.
But it does at least give us a background and something to think about. So, Hansel and Gretel are now abandoned in the woods. Their father and stepmother have faced no consequences for this type of child neglect and abandonment and abuse. And they are left, the children are left to themselves. So they start looking for a way home. As before, remember, they did where they were able to find their way home.
Right,
but this time, they end up going a little bit deeper into the woods, and they end up finding a house.
Oh, great.
Well, not so great, as we'll find out in a couple minutes. This house was, interestingly enough, made of what I can glean from the sources, made of candy.
Wait. What?
I don't know why. I don't know why this house is made of candy. I don't know how that's structurally sound. And I don't know how a house made of candy in the middle of the woods would not have been a source of food and eaten.
Covered in ants at the very least.
Oh, yeah. I could just imagine. The bugs.
I have a fear. No. I don't want to think about it.
Could just imagine. But for whatever reason, this house was still standing. Yeah. And
Crazy.
Hansel and Gretel found it.
That's some witchcraft. I don't know, man. That's crazy. That is crazy.
That's one theory some of the documents had, was maybe it was witchcraft.
Wait.
People believed that back then.
You're kidding me.
Yeah.
Wow.
I wonder if maybe
Okay, all right.
the homeowner had found certain types of oils or other types of repellent, bug repellent and animal repellent, just to keep everything away. But again, I'm still not sure why building a house made of candy would be a good usage of material, especially when you're surrounded by other types of building materials.
Well, I mean, to each their own, but at the same time, this whole witch thing has me. I mean, the witches and the bugs.
Mm.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm having a hard time with it.
Yeah. Wait, so you're having a hard time with the witches and the bugs, but
Yeah.
the earlier stepmother and father
No, no, no. That was fine.
relationship.
I mean, it's weird, but whatever. I'm not here to judge and throw stones at people. So yeah, hey, that's okay. But the witches and the bugs. I mean,
Well, I would hope if you are going to throw stones, you wouldn't throw stones at this house because I do think the stones would break the candy walls.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I would think so. But I mean, no windstorms, no forest fires. Oh. Wait a minute. Okay, so this is way prior to climate change.
Oh, you still have storms then,
So
and you still have winter. And I don't see how
storm. Yeah.
how
Well,
a candy house be insulated.
well, no, but the candy would, perhaps, I don't know, is it chocolate? Is it like a hard boiled candy? I think the snow might kind of preserve it, but with climate change, we're having more forest fires, and forest fires would have melted the candy. So I'm guessing that it was probably a much colder environment.
So that would have
Some
definitely helped
300 years
preserve it
ago.
if it was a
Yeah,
sugar-based candy as opposed to a
yeah,
chocolate-based candy.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Oh, and on that note, speaking of candy, get a note from our sponsor.
Okay, so we're back, and I have a question right off the bat. All right, so they find this house, and it's made out of candy, and I'm my mind is all over the place. Is somebody that builds a house out of candy? I mean, there's got to be like a really sweet person. It's got to be.
You
I
would be
mean,
wrong there. Not in this case.
no, man. Oh, okay, all right, all right, all right, all right.
Oh,
This is
it's gonna
blowing me
get
away.
worse. It looks like
Worse?
base. Yeah, oh, it does. It looks like that this house was made out of candy specifically to attract
Bugs.
people, to attract
People?
children.
Children?
Yeah. So there's something that we have in the law called an attractive nuisance. It's a little bit different here, and that's more of a tort type of theory. This, I
Okay.
think, would be more on the criminal side, if there is such thing as an attractive nuisance in criminal law. I mean, there isn't, but this, I think, would meet that standard if there was one.
I mean, my dog's an attractive nuisance, but
Well,
I think you mean something different.
yeah. So in this case, it looks like this house was made out of candy to attract children. So what happened here is Hansel and Gretel find this home and they go up to it and they begin to start eating some of the structure.
Ew!
Yeah, so
Ew!
eating the roof, the windows, all
That is so
different types of
gross.
candy. Yeah, I mean, exposed to the elements. You don't know if maybe birds pooped on it,
The
but
bugs.
yeah, they start. Yep, and the bugs too. So
No.
so they start eating it. Now the homeowner comes out. The homeowner is home and comes out and sees them vandalizing her home at this point.
Is that really vandalism? Could
Well,
they be
that
charged? Could they have been charged with vandalism?
well, I think see that's the argument is that the fact that this home is made out of candy in such a setting is in and of itself a little bit suspect.
Yeah, no kidding.
So yeah, so that's why here. I mean, with that attractive nuisance theory or tort theory, but in this case maybe more on a criminal side, the homeowner should have known that having a home made out of candy, especially when There are so many other materials available, but having a home made out of candy would attract children.
Yeah, I mean, that's negligence at the very least. Come on.
Yeah. And the very fact that the person did not know is in and of itself negligence, as they should have known. Any reasonable person should have known. But again,
Exactly.
we're conflating different legal standards and
All right, fair
looking
enough.
at different legal standards now.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. So she finds them, and then I mean, does she invite them in?
She does. She invites them in. At the time, she didn't appear too upset that they were vandalizing the home, and so she invites them in and starts feeding them.
Okay. Wait. Giving them more candy?
Candy and other food, but a good portion of it is candy. Yes.
Well, I mean, that's kind of irresponsible, don't you think?
She's not their mother, so she can feed them whenever she wants.
Oh, that's, oh, no, that is so true. You know what? The neighbor kid comes over sometimes during the summer and asks me for treats, and I give her popsicles, and then she eats them before she goes home. So, yeah, okay, I totally get it. Yeah, I'm with you.
At least you don't try to then cannibalize the child.
No. I can't eat a whole child in one sitting. So,
Well, how large is the child? Is it
even small ones? Yeah, they're just
okay.
no.
They're quite heavy.
They're they're like bugs.
Too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here, this woman did not have the same compunction that you have, or the same resistance to cannibalism that you have.
The same revulsion, you mean?
Revulsion, yeah. And,
yeah, not as cold-hearted as you. It's actually literally a revulsion. Yeah.
See, yeah, I think one thing when you go to law school is your heart is ripped out so that it can turn into a rock.
Fair
it's
enough.
Very useful. Yeah,
Fair
it's
enough.
usually in like between the first and second year.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. It's a class.
Yeah.
Usually in the summer.
So
in this
it's
case,
not an elective either, is it?
No, it's a requirement
Okay.
to graduate. Yeah,
Wow.
Unfortunately.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So she's feeding them. She's feeding this. Wow. This does not bode well.
It doesn't. We do have some court records that talk about what happened next. So she is feeding them, and she then imprisons them. Won't let them leave. Yeah, just false imprisonment.
What, like a candy floss cell?
The one thing in the home that wasn't candy was the cells and chains.
Of
The
course.
home was destroyed, but when investigators went back, they were able to find metal apparatus reminiscent of chains and a cage.
So this woman, hold on. We'll get back to this house being destroyed part, which it is just mind blowing. But she makes everything out of candy, but she makes a real cage with chains.
Well, if you have a cage made out of candy cane, you can just eat your way through.
You might break a tooth or something. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe if it's a thick candy cane.
Yeah, if it was thick enough, you could lick your way out, but it would take a long time.
It would, and you might have some issues with blood sugar later on.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, here it was a real chain, real cage, and what I've been able to learn is that the children were kept, and they were not allowed to leave.
Weird. What?
Very.
What?
Yes, very.
What was
very
she
weird.
doing with these kids? This is getting a little creepy.
So they did testify later on after all of this was over, and according to what we have left of their testimony, they claimed that she was feeding them so that she could later then eat them. Thus going back to our comment earlier about your neighbor and feeding her popsicles and whether there was going to be cannibalism involved.
Yeah. I mean, fattening them up to eat. Wait a minute. Hang tight. you're not telling me that this is the first time she's done this.
From their testimony and the type of efficacy she had going on here, no, I would say this is not the first time.
Yeah, because that's not a first time crime. That's
No.
that's like from what I've seen in all the shows that I've watched, you gotta build up to that. That's not like, hey, I'm gonna build a house out of candy and kidnap some children, fatten them up, and eat them. That's like in the later stages. So there had to have been other children gone missing.
We do have reports noting missing children for over a decade, but they come from all over the area. So no one ever put anything together, and there was no centralized law enforcement.
No
So there
Amber
was
Alerts, no
and
like
even
posters on trees, nothing.
no, nothing. And even now, all we have is just missing reports of missing children, but no real information about what happened to them, where they were, just missing within about a 50-mile radius.
I've often felt that, 300, 400 years ago, even 200 years ago, that sometimes a child would go missing and people would be like, oops, we lost one.
Yeah, so we don't know. We don't know
Yeah.
if they just, lost one, or if they ended up in this candy house. Very strange.
Yeah, very strange. Very, very odd. Yeah.
Very odd. Yeah.
Okay, so
But at least here we do have some documentation. So in this case, Gretel, the younger sister, was a little bit better about hiding her imagination and hiding her cleverness. And she was able to, at one point, have a little bit of extra freedom, and was able to find a shovel or some other type of heavy instrument. The translation's a little bit odd, so what I can see is it looks like it would have been a shovel. But she was able to get one of those, and before the older woman, as it, from her description, sounds like an older woman, but before the woman was able to kill and eat her brother Hansel, Gretel was able to, from what I can put together in the testimony, was able to knock her out and kill her.
no way.
Yeah.
And
yeah, and
Gretel's the younger one too, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
And that was actually her defense, is her age and self-defense. This is why all of this came out.
Wow.
Yeah. 'Cause she was arrested.
Wait, hang tight. The kid was arrested?
Yeah. So she's able to kill the woman and rescue her brother. And they were able to make it back in town and notify local authorities. And this is the first time any type of authority figure is notified.
But, I still have to think that local authorities and authorities from, neighboring towns would have at least talked to each other about missing children over the years. Now, with this discovery, these kids show up. Did they dig any further? No pun intended, but did they dig any further to see if, she had kidnapped previous lost children?
Well, there was no information indicating they ever found any bones. So I don't know if they just decided not to dig, if they found this woman's body and took Gretel's testimony or her claim as ravings of a child, and thought that this child had killed this woman who was caring for her. But either way,
that's police misconduct at the very least.
very much, yes, definitely. But either way, Gretel was arrested, Hansel and Gretel, and then this is where this story came from.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, luckily for them, and especially for their defense, the candy house, parts of the candy house were found. They were able to find some leftover candy after Hansel and Gretel left. And I forgot to mention earlier, part of the reason that police didn't really believe Gretel initially is because there was no house left. There was no candy house left.
Well, what happened to the candy house?
from what I can see, it was destroyed. I don't know if Hansel and Gretel burned it. I mean, it's candy, so you don't really need a hot fire to start melting sugar.
But it had lasted. I mean, apparently, I'm guessing at least a couple of decades.
Did it though, or did she just continue to rebuild it?
Oh, good point.
Yeah. Or did she continue to treat the sugar and add to it every time it began to wear thin? And now, she's gone. There's no one to add to it.
Or, other kids might have eaten parts of it and she's got to, keep replenishing it. Okay. That makes sense.
So the house was gone. Now, luckily, again, for Gretel's defense, they were able to find not only the metal chains and parts of the cage, but they were also able to find pieces of candy that were large enough that they could potentially have been part of a home. Like a joint or a plank of wood or part of a door.
Did you say joint?
Did you want a joint?
No, let's keep going.
Okay.
So, okay. So the woman, do we know, is there anything that you've seen that indicates that this woman, and you said, I think you said older woman, but in those years that could mean 30, 40.
That could be, yeah. She could have been, I mean, there was no indication that she was married, so she could have been anywhere from 25 to 65.
Exactly. Okay. So bearing that in mind, is it possible that we could dig a little deeper and see if she came from any of the well-known candy-making families of the time?
If we had her name, but
there's no name.
While they did name her in the court documents, that information is lost. These documents were not well preserved, and unfortunately, good swaths of the testimony of the evidence were lost, or is otherwise illegible.
Did they seal documents in those years because this was a minor? This was a case involving a minor, so I mean,
yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. Maybe I know we seal cases, but
maybe that's one reason why it was so difficult to find these records, and why so much of them are lost and illegible.
So okay, so was this you said the girl's name was Hansel?
Gretel.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So the girl Gretel, did she? That's a very Germanic name. So yeah, definitely in that area. Did she get convicted?
Thankfully, no. What we were able to find, I was able to find some of the charging documents as well as documents relating to the judgment, and she was not found guilty.
Wow.
Her defense here.
That's fantastic.
Self-defense was successful.
And what about therapy for these children that have gone through this incredibly traumatic event? And were they sent back to the parents?
After
the father?
This, I don't know. The documents that we have end with her judgment, so we know that she was not found guilty, that the court did find she acted in self-defense, but there's no information then about whether, based on her age, whether the court still had jurisdiction over her or whether they were going to send her back to her parents who initially abandoned her.
Well, exactly.
Right. And there's also no indication about whether the abandonment played a role in the judgment.
Well, I don't see now that I don't think so, because unless we can find records that say the parents were ever even questioned or arrested or anything, I'm thinking they got away with that whole abandonment issue.
I think they did too, because they weren't even called as witnesses.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Really, really makes you think about their lack of a inefficient and streamlined judicial system.
Yeah, and to be honest with you too, the boy was like, I think you said what, about 14, 13, 14, something like that.
Yeah. Anywhere from the ages of 9 to 14.
Yeah, I mean, in those years, I mean, that's pretty much an adult, and he could have then taken care of her if they, stayed in town or something like that. I would imagine they would have been allowed to just go on living their lives.
I believe so. There's no record of them after. So
No,
all I can assume is they continue living their lives. There's no treatment record. There's no record on whether the court retained jurisdiction and had them on some type of probation. There's nothing there. So all I can assume is that once the judgment was rendered, they were free to go.
And I'm going to ask our listeners, to be honest with you, if any of you have done your DNA or your genealogy and can actually trace these two children / young adults back in your family history, please let us know, because I would be really interested to know what happened to them afterwards. Did they get married? Did they have children? Are there descendants out there? It would be very interesting to know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that's how we found each other, through DNA. Fourth cousins, or as Jews call it, second of second cousins.
Or second cousins twice.
Yeah. Twice removed.
Twice removed, or double second cousins or something.
It's second cousins squared.
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there's got to be descendants out there that the story. I mean, this is a powerful story of trauma and abandonment, and you would think that it would have been, handed down as lore, at the very least in the family, in the extended family, if they had had children. So I really, really implore our listeners to please reach out to us if any of you are descendants of these two young people.
Yeah.
I really would like to know. Yeah.
Since these records end at the judgment, we don't have any more information. And unfortunately, once the Grimm's investigation unit, the Grimm's brothers investigations decided, or once they found those records, it appears that their job was done. Their contract had been completed, and they did not gather any additional information.
It's amazing that enough of the documents are still in existence, that you've been able to find these. I mean, there's spotty records, but I mean, I'm sure in the original records, the woman was named and the parents were named, and there would have been a lot more information than just the kids, two first names. I'm sure their last names would have been in the documents, at the very least, in the court documents. But
they may have been, and maybe they're just redacted, or they're otherwise illegible.
Yeah. Or if they were in the Austro-Hungarian Empire, it could have also never been translated.
Yeah, and my German is not very good.
Yeah. I don't know any German at all. Not. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
This was a tough one. I mean, I say I'm not big on, kids, but I still, like, that's it's still got to, I mean, you don't have a heart, so you wouldn't know this, but it still kind of pulls at the heartstrings that these children went through this trauma and came out the other side.
I'll have to take your word for it, since I don't have heartstrings.
Yeah, and I rarely do when it comes to children, but in this particular case, I'm feeling verklempt. It's a little it's got me verklempt. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, gee.
It's really, I don't know what to say. It's I'm almost.
Do you need us to maybe move away from this Michigas?
I think we do. It's too much. I'm sorry. I didn't think it would get to me like this, but it's hard. It's hard to hear about things like that. Yeah. Very hard. Well, thanks for spending some time with me and bringing up another case. It's so fascinating. Your dedication to the law and finding these cases that have just gone unsolved. I mean, and maybe like I said, maybe our listeners can help us to solve some of these things. And I don't know. It's a bit much for me tonight. To be honest with you.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, to our listeners, I do apologize for us kvetching so much on this, but it would be nice if we could learn what happened.
Yes.
What happened
Please,
to them.
please reach out. So next week, I'm assuming you've got another cold case for me. I like the fact that you don't tell me in advance, because it gives me an opportunity to think on the fly. But this one really, it came out of left field. Yeah, it got me.
Yeah.
It got me in the feels. It did.
Yeah. Well, good thing is next week we don't have a case involving children.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. I will wait to see what's up for next week. Thanks for sharing your time with me, and
You're welcome. Yeah.
thanks to our listeners. This has been quite an evening.
It's been an evening.
All right. Well, have a good rest of the evening, and thank you everybody for listening. And don't forget to reach out if you have more information to help this long-standing crime be solved.
And hopefully we can put it to rest.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, cuz it's always a pleasure, and I can't laugh about this. You're laughing, and I can't do it. I'm verklempt tonight.
You're so verklempt. Oi.
It's too
Oi,
much. It's too much. Oi, wees mir. It's too much. My DNA is coming out twofold here.